Downloading. This particular file is a TIFF, and I think this might be the first, maybe second time that we've used a TIFF in this class. A TIFF is really similar to a JPEG, but it tends to have even more information in it. So TIFF files are kind of in between the size of a Photoshop file and a JPEG. So not quite as big as a Photoshop file, but definitely bigger than a JPEG. What we're going to be learning to do tonight is learning how to repair images. And so this one, I think it should be really straightforward what we're trying to do. We are going to try to heal his face, where the creases are. And then another thing that we're going to do tonight, let me open up the other file so you can kind of see where we're going. Let me go to class 9. I've also got this example here. This one, it's not quite as apparent, but a lot of the images that I'm sharing with you guys are images that were taken off of either real estate sites or other architecture sites. And if you're going to photograph your building, at least try not to do it on trash day. You know, if there's a car out front, make it a Lambo, something worth looking at. Sorry, I know that that's subjective, but we're going to learn how to try and Photoshop some of these things out, including the light pole. And that goes into something called cloning. So the first thing that we're going to do is learn how to heal an image. And the second thing we're going to do is look how to clone, and then maybe a little bit of healing too. So to start off in this file, we are going to add a new layer. And go ahead and call that one a healing layer for me. Yep.
Do you have a ruler on the side of your screen?
I don't, but if I hit Control R, I can bring it in or take it away. So if you want to turn your ruler on or off, you can do Control R. Yep. And the reason why we're adding a new layer called healing is going along the lines of the idea that we don't want to destroy any pixels. We also don't want to change the original, so that we can turn off the things that we've edited or healed and look back at the original just to kind of compare what the photo looked like and what was there. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. I will just say that you guys need to have this tiny little box checked off that says sample all layers, because right now the healing layer is blank. So there's nothing to really heal on that particular layer. But by clicking this, it'll look at all the layers that are on.
How did you get the healing layer again?
I just added a new layer and I called it healing.
Okay.
Yep. So it's something I created.
Cool.
Kent, was that a question too? Oh, sorry. So to get there, you have to hit J for the healing brush tool. So it's this cute little band-aid right here. Sabrina, is that what you're going to ask too? So the shortcut is J. And I'm going to show you guys how it works. And I actually just used the very first one, the spot healing brush tool. And I am going to start with this area of his neck right here. So this is all kind of automated. Do you see that where I am selecting is turning black or a dark gray? And then when I let go, Photoshop kind of does its best guess on how to fix that area. What it does is it kind of studies the pixels around it. It again takes its best guess to fix those particular pixels. So down here by his chin, I'm going to try to do this area too. And take a look at my screen real quick. One thing I like to do from time to time is turn off the healing layer so I can see what was below. What you don't want to do is make it look like he has a scar somewhere on his face. So try to kind of spread out the brush a little bit, or maybe not spread it out so much. so that it's a really clean fix. Have any of you guys been in line at like the Costco photo center or any photo center and it says like digital restoration of your photos, $59.99 or something? Have you guys seen that before? No? Well, they do offer like these types of services at Costco, but now you guys know how to do it. So, and again, it's all automated. I think it does a pretty good job of fixing or healing those pixels. But like I said, from time to time, check into the image below so you don't accidentally give him a scar. Is this pretty straightforward for you guys? Sabrina? Oh, sorry, not Control J, just J. It's a shortcut off to the side. Similar to when we use like W for wand or V for selection tool. So if I go back to wand, if I just hit J, it selects it for me. Yeah. So one assignment that you guys will see that I've posted that's open until November. If you by chance have any family photos similar to this, you can try to heal it. Last semester when I did this particular assignment, it was kind of funny. People brought in pictures from like the 80s that were out of focus. So that's not what healing is for. Healing doesn't bring things back into focus. Really, its main thing is to help creases and things like this. So if you find anything that needs a little bit of restoration, bring it in or scan it at home. We do have access to a camera here if you want to take the picture here. But you guys can get some extra credit if you have some photos that you want to restore. And at this point, I think all of you guys have been working on this long enough to where I would like you guys to go ahead and turn on and off that healing layer. Just take a look at the work you've done. See if you notice any obvious lines or scars going across his face. It's kind of cool to see the before and after with not a lot of work. Okay, I'm letting you guys come back to this one and finish it. Go ahead and open up Photo Restoration 1 for me now. So like I said, you can come back to that one. Now with this particular image, we are going to crop it down. And I don't think we've talked about cropping yet in this class. It's something that I typically do on the first or second day of class. But when I was thinking about our lecture that day and the recording, I actually don't think we ever went through it. Does cropping sound familiar to anybody here? Okay, I'm seeing no's.
Only because I
Okay, but not in here. Yep, so we're going to do it in here. And this is a perfect example of an image that you might want to actually crop. This image was taken here on campus. I have some magnets in the other classroom. And I used the magnets to hold the image. And I took it with a really high resolution camera. And the way that the crop tool works is the shortcut is the keyboard key C. So C for crop. Okay. And hopefully you guys are following along with me on this one. If you're not, come find me here. So again, C for crop. And I think it's pretty straightforward. You can grab these corners and bring it in to whatever size you want. Or if you look up here, there are different ratios you can do. So if you know you want a square, you can change this ratio to be a square, and you can crop it down to be a square. If you know it's a 5 by 7, it makes it a 5 by 7. Or you can even flip it so that do you see that it's changing from landscape to portrait? You can use that as well. But by default, mine is just set to kind of the free form ratio. So I'm going to clear that. So on this particular one, let's go ahead and crop it down to a 5 by 7, the best that you can. So all of ours might be slightly different from where we're cropping, just based on the image. And then all you need to do is hit enter, and we are destroying pixels. We're getting rid of them, but it's okay. We don't want those other pixels. Say that one more time. Enter. I just hit the return key. And then to get out of there, go ahead and hit V so you're back to your regular editing mode. And with this picture, there's not as many edits, but I'd like you guys to see what kind of restoration you can do here. Because it is an old color photo, I'd like you guys to kind of fix up the spots where the image has been damaged, like on his suit coat arm and on her dress. And there's also some dust. You might even want to play with the levels. But one thing to watch out for, last semester a lot of students got rid of this on her face. It's actually a mole. You don't want to get rid of that. So let's keep that there. But for these two, again, try and do what you can as far as levels and restoration. And then in about 10 minutes or so, I'll check in to see where you guys are. If you have any questions, you don't need to be done in 10 minutes, but I'll just check in. We will go on to work on this life science building. Being fun. The reason why I'm checking in so soon after is I think you guys are getting the point that these are really straightforward commands, but they're redundant. Like you're going to be clicking for a while. And so I would rather move on to the next items and then give you class time to work, as long as there aren't any questions about how the spot healing tool works. Did you guys get that to work okay for the soldier?
How do you undo how do you undo the spot healing?
Similar to everything else, you just go back through your history and you can undo it, or on that layer that you created, you could even go through on that layer and erase it. So let me make sure I've got my... I want caps lock on. So on this, I'm trying to see where I've healed it. You should be able to go through and see how I have a really small brush right now. It's only 1 pixel. But see how I'm essentially erasing what I've healed?
Yeah.
So you can do that too. So by putting it on a separate layer, you have control over what you can bring back or get rid of. So Bronson's question was just how do you undo what you've done? And because you've done it on a separate layer, you can actually just use your eraser to kind of go through and erase whatever you've done on this layer, if you don't want to go back and undo everything. Okay. All right, so clicks down for just a minute, and let's go ahead and meet in this BYU life science image. And I want all of us to start with the light pole. And I'm going to make another layer, and I'm just going to call it clone. right, is everybody with me and ready? You guys have a new layer so you don't destroy pixels. Okay, so on this one, our shortcut for the clone stamp is S for stamp, and it looks like this over here. It's called the clone stamp tool. And when you first start, do you see how mine is giving me that no symbol? The reason why I'm getting a no, and you might be getting a no, is because right now you might not have it set to be current and below, and I actually didn't have any layers selected. So I want to have clone be the active layer, so that's where my work goes. And then I also want it to sample, I mean in this case there's only one layer, so it doesn't make a difference if I do current layer and below or just all layers, either one. Okay. Everybody with me so far? Now, I don't know what size your brush is at, but look up here real quick, like where I'm circling. Is your brush by default a 21? Okay, let's just start with the default and then we can change it from there. But take a look at my screen for just a moment and I'm going to show you how it works. So you guys all see the crosshairs on my computer, right? So if I hold the Alt key down, do you see how it turns into a trigger? That means that's where your stamp is. So essentially, think of that as your ink pad. So if you were actually stamping something, you dip in the ink pad, and that's the color it typically uses. In this case, I'm going to make it really obvious. Let me go to this branch. This is where I'm dipping in the ink pad, and now, do you see that even my cursor turns into that branch? So when I use the clone tool, it doesn't keep pulling from that same place. But do you see how now it starts from there and it's copying everything surrounding it? You see that didn't just keep going to the same spot? Okay, I'm going to undo that. I just did a Control Z. What we are trying to do, what you guys will learn, is even though the sky looks blue, there are many different colors of blue in here. So if I were to do my stamp up here, this blue, do you see how different that is compared to the light pole, even though it's all part of the same sky? So it's important that when you do these things, make sure to get as close as you can to the source object. So again, Alt and then click. And then what you're going to do is use the sky around it. See how I'm already I went too close. We're trying to use the sky around it to get rid of the light pole. So you can go above or below, but again, I don't want this to look photoshopped. I don't want it to look like there was a line here before. Okay. So tell me again, what is the shortcut to get to the clone stamp? S, good. And before you start working, should you create a new layer? Why? Yep, so that way you can check your work, and also if you don't like what you've done, you haven't destroyed pixels. You can erase it or clear it from the clone without getting rid of the original object. What do you need to hit in order to find that target area, or like the ink pad? Yep, the Alt button. And I reset mine all the time. So, for better or worse, I kind of jump around from area to area just to kind of smooth it in. And it'll get, so with the light pole, it'll get really tricky once you get to the tree and maybe especially the car. Don't make the car look like it got hit by something. So take some time getting rid of the light pole and then we'll come back and do it all together too. Turn this back on. So one thing about me is I've been using Photoshop for so long that there are a lot of tools, especially in the healing area, like the patch tool and the content aware move tool. I've never been able to master these two. So if these are two tools that you want to look at and see if you might be able to patch something better than what I use, Clone Stamp, I would say go ahead and play with all of these. You guys are all kind of a blank canvas right now when it comes to Photoshop. And so if before you get too far with like my method of cloning and spot healing, try these too and see what you can do to get the garbage cans out of the photo as well. Okay, I've seen a couple examples and I'm pretty impressed because I've only been recording for 20 minutes. We've only had class for an hour, but you guys are getting through that example, so that looks really good. Because of that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up your assignment and go through it with you. When you guys are done with these 3 files, turn them back in. They're all part of your exercise. But let me also explain what the assignment is. So the exercise is 3 parts alone. So it's the 2 photo restorations and the this BYU Life Science building. And I didn't put this on here, but please turn all 3 of them in as a JPEG. Just the JPEG this time, not PSDs. Excuse me. Now, with the curb appeal assignment, I am providing you guys an image. Again, I got this off of a realtor's website. And I know this is kind of leaning towards false advertising, but let's think of, so this is an old house in Sugar House that probably got like way more money than what it's worth. But there's definitely some things that could be done on this house. A new paint job, if we zoom in a little bit, maybe. You can see that the paint's peeling off, that there's a lot of work that needs to be done around the windows. And so what we're going to do is spruce up the curb appeal of this particular image. And again, we're not trying to mislead our client, but we just want to show them the potential of the house. Like if somebody wants to buy it, we can show them, you know, with a little bit of paint and new paint colors, this is what your house could look like. So we don't want to false advertise, but we want to show them the potential of their home. So on the rubric, there's lots of things I'm looking for. So this is a culmination of everything that we've learned. Remove the security sign. Round exterior light, the house numbers, the mailbox. So all of that is most likely going to be the clone stamp and the healing stamp. So a lot of the stuff on this front porch, get rid of it. And then I'm going to ask you guys to bring in new objects. Insert a new mailbox and house numbers. They can be in a new location. Clean up all the blemishes in the paint. And then also show a new color scheme, okay? Take your time on the color scheme because it's worth 5 points. All of these points add up. So just because you put in a new color scheme doesn't mean it's a good one, right? Take your time with that part of it. And then last but not least, clean up the landscaping on it too. So it's a little crazy right now. See what you can do with it, okay? So that's